Imagine for a moment that the stars above you are not distant flames, but ancient eyes, watching, remembering, guiding. That every breath you take is a note in a celestial melody, composed not by chance, but by an intelligence so vast, but with. It weaves galaxies and heartbeats with the same thread. You were not placed here accidentally. No. You are a rhythm in the pulse of something eternal, called forth not to shrink, but to shine. And perhaps the silence you fear is not emptiness, but space. Space for your truth to echo, for your presence to grow. The struggles. They are not punishments, but sacred initiations. The doubts, merely clouds shifting over the mountain of your becoming. Act as if you are the best. Not because you must compete, but because you already are in your own divine formation. And in the stillness of that knowing, life bows gently recognizing itself in you. You see, the trouble with the way we often move through the world is that we think greatness is something to chase. A crown to wear, but a mountain to climb, a title to earn. But what if that's an illusion? What if the idea that you must become great is the very thing that blinds you to the truth that you already are? Not in the noisy, boastful sense of the ego puffing itself up, but in a much deeper, quieter way. But the kind of greatness that hums beneath your skin like a forgotten melody, waiting not to be invented, but remembered. You were never meant to measure yourself against others, because no one else was cast in your mold. No one else carries your rhythm, your story, your fingerprint of spirit. And so, to act as if you are the best is not about superiority. It's about authenticity. It's about recognizing that the river does not try to be the ocean, nor does the moon compete with the sun. Each is sovereign in its being, and so are you, somewhere along the way. You may have been taught to be humble, but humility has been misunderstood. Real humility is not shrinking. It is standing tall without needing to shout. It is moving through the world with the silent understanding that you are part of something vast. And that your presence matters in that unfolding. You are not a bystander in the universe. You are a voice in its choir, a note in its symphony. And for that song to be complete, you must sing, fully, openly, without apology. The stars do not ask for permission to shine. The tree does not wait for approval before it grows. They simply exist, as they were designed to, in full obedience to their nature. And so must you. But acting as if you are the best is not pretending to be something you're not. It is dropping the act. It is stepping into your original face, the one that existed before the world told you who to be. You may ask, but what if I fail? What if you do? Even the ocean stumbles on the shore. Even the wind loses its way in the valley. And yet it returns again and again because it does not doubt its nature. You, too, must return to yourself, to your essence. That is where your greatness lies. Not in comparison, not in validation, but in presence. Every time you doubt your worth, you are forgetting the miracle of your being. You are a living contradiction, fragile and eternal, stardust and soul, with memory and mystery. You were born from the silence that existed before sound, sculpted not just by your past, but by the hands of something timeless. Your life is not random, it is a note played on purpose. So act as if you are the best, because in the truth of things, there is no one else who can be you. And if you do not live as the fullest expression of that truth, the universe misses something it can never replace. Confusing moments are part of the music. Remember this, you are not here to rise above the world. You are here to remember that you already belong to it. Have you ever noticed how the world tends to mirror your inner state? Not in some magical or superstitious way, but in a deeply subtle, profoundly real manner. When you walk into a room with shoulders back and a quiet calm within, people respond to that. Not because you've said anything, but because something in you is aligned, but with. And when you walk through life believing you are unworthy, unnoticed, or lesser, but with, the world often reflects that same belief right back to you. It's as if existence itself is a vast, with, living mirror, and it takes the shape of your most deeply held convictions. Now, this isn't to say that life bends to your ego's demands. No, it bends to something deeper. Your belief, your inner frequency, with, your rhythm. And so, to act as if you are the best isn't to perform a role, it's to tune in. It's to match the vibration of self-worth that already exists beneath all your doubt. Because in truth, with, you are not trying to become something greater. You're remembering what you've always been. When you carry yourself as if you are the best, the universe listens. It doesn't reward arrogance, but it does respond to authenticity. With. This is not about walking around puffed up with self-importance. That's just the ego dressing itself in borrowed clothes. But with. What I mean is something far more delicate. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that you belong here. With. That your presence is not an accident, and that your voice is part of the music of this moment. You see, with. The world does not ask you to be the best in comparison to others. It only asks that you be the best expression of yourself. The tree does not envy the mountain. The flame does not try to outshine the moon. They each exist in harmony with themselves, but with, and in doing so, bring harmony to everything around them. In the same way, when you stop questioning your place, with, you begin to radiate a kind of still power that others feel, even if they can't explain it. And that still power, with, that quiet conviction begins with belief. Not a belief that you must prove your worth, with, but that your worth is woven into the fabric of your being. The external world is merely a reflection of your internal dialogue. If you walk with hesitation, life will hesitate with you. But if you walk as if the ground was made for your feet, but with, life often responds by laying the path beneath you, one step at a time. With, to act as if you are the best is to stop seeking permission to be whole, but with, it is to drop the need for applause and trust that your presence alone is enough. It is to live in a state of harmony with yourself. No longer trying to become, but simply allowing yourself to be. And in that being, something remarkable happens. People listen differently. Opportunities arrive more fluidly, with. Not because you manipulated anything, but because you finally stopped resisting your own light. It's all reflection, you see, with. Not just in mirrors or faces, but in moments, in chance encounters, in the silence between words. But life is always reflecting what you believe about yourself. So if you believe you are insignificant, the world will seem cold, with. But if you believe you are a necessary piece of the whole, life begins to open like a flower sensing the sun, with. So act as if you are the best. Not to be above anyone else, but to finally stand beside yourself fully and without apology, with. Because when you truly see your own light, the world cannot help but reflect it back, with. We often imagine that challenges are interruptions, detours that pull us away from the path we're meant to be on, but with. But what if they are the path? What if, instead of obstacles, with, these moments of struggle and uncertainty are the very movements that give rhythm to your becoming? You see, life isn't a straight road leading to some perfect, polished version of yourself. It's more like a symphony, full of tension and release, harmony and dissonance, silence and crescendo. And your challenges, those aching, messy, with. It may not feel that way while you're in the midst of them. When you're in pain, when things fall apart, when you're misunderstood or left behind, it feels like something is wrong. But look closely. Listen carefully. Beneath the noise, with, there's a deeper order at play. The universe, in its strange and sacred way, is composing you, shaping your spirit not to be invincible, but to be real. And realness comes not from perfection, but from contact. Contact with pain, with failure, with the raw textures of being alive. You see, the wind does not only blow when skies are clear. It howls in storms, dances through ruins, and still it moves forward. So must you. Acting as if you are the best does not mean pretending that life doesn't touch you. It means allowing life to touch you and still remaining open. It means trusting that the brokenness has a place, that the silence you feel is not absence, but incubation. Even silence has sound, if you know how to listen. The seed buried in the earth seems still, seems lost, yet beneath the soil, a quiet miracle is underway. With roots begin to reach down, life begins to press upward, and you are no different. The darkness you find yourself in now may be the very space where your soul is growing its roots. It's uncomfortable, yes, but necessary. Because without it, you would never be deep enough to hold what is coming, and are to act as if you are the best. Then, but is not to deny your pain, but to carry it with presence. To realize that this challenge, this confusion, this heartbreak, it's not the end of your path. It's a doorway. It's not there to punish you, but to stretch you open, to make, space within you for something more whole, more grounded, more radiant. And how do you carry that presence? Not by pushing through as if you're unshaken, but by surrendering to the flow without losing your shape. You meet each moment with the quiet understanding that nothing is wasted. Even your tears are sacred. Even your doubt is part of the design. You stop resisting the dissonance, and you begin to hear the music it's becoming. Life is always orchestrating, always balancing chaos and order. And when you begin to see challenges as part of that balance, as movements within a grand, unfolding song, then you stop shrinking in their presence. You rise not in rebellion, but in reverence. So the next time life brings you to your knees, remember the bow must bend before it sends the arrow. But your retreat may only be the drawing back before a sacred flight. There is intelligence in your struggle, though it may speak in a language the mind doesn't yet understand. Act as if you are the best. Not because life is easy, but because you are being shaped by something ancient and wise. Something that knows how to carve beauty from chaos and wholeness from wounds. Because even the silence, when listened to deeply, reveals that you have never stopped becoming music. We live in a world obsessed with comparison. From the moment we begin to speak, we're taught to measure. Who's faster, who's smarter, who's better. It's a subtle kind of conditioning, and before long, we forget that the measuring stick was never meant to be there. We look at others and see their brilliance, their beauty, their timing, and we wonder, where do I stand in all this? But that's the trap. Thinking that you must stand in relation to someone else, as though your light can only shine in the shadow of another's. But here's the truth, quietly waiting behind the noisy. No one is better than you. Not because you're more, but because they are not you. And that is everything. There has never been, and will never be another you. Not just your face or your voice, but the way you see, the way you feel, but the way your consciousness folds around experience and turns it into meaning. That's not something that can be ranked. It's not a contest, it's a miracle. To act as if you are the best, then, is not to stand above others, it's to stand within yourself, fully, authentically. It's to embody the truth that your worth is not dependent on anyone else's lack or excess. Imagine a field of wildflowers. The violet does not shrink because the rose is in bloom. The daisy does not try to rearrange its petals to match the tulip, but with each stands in its own radiance, and together they make the field beautiful. But with, that's what life is meant to be. A chorus of different voices, not a race toward some imagined throne. With, you don't need to be louder or bolder or more polished to earn your place in this world. You simply need to be. But with, to live in alignment with your own design, the design that came long before fear taught you to pretend. You see, with, when you abandon comparison, you free yourself to rise. You begin to move not with the anxiety of performance, but with the grace of belonging. That's what acting as if you are the best really means. Not pretending to be flawless, but being fearless in your truth. It means allowing your spirit take up space without apology or hesitation, but with. And it's important to understand that this kind of presence is not built overnight. It comes from shedding layers. The layers of shame, of expectation, of not enoughness. Until what's left is simply you, unfiltered, unmasked, and whole. Others may walk beside you, ahead of you, or behind you, but none of them can walk as you. Your timing, your journey, your rhythm. They're part of a deeper choreography, one that doesn't need to be justified or explained. So don't be distracted by the noise of comparison. Don't let someone else's story confuse you about the value of your own. When you really understand that no one is better than you, you stop needing to prove yourself. But you begin to live with a kind of quiet certainty, a steadiness that doesn't rattle when others shine. You realize their light doesn't dim yours. It reflects it. And in that realization, something sacred awakens. Not ambition, not ego, but reverence for the one life you've been given and the infinite ways in which it is enough. So walk forward with the ease of someone who no longer needs to chase validation. Sit still with the peace of someone who's remembered who they are. And speak, not to be heard above the crowd, but to add your note to the chorus. Because when you finally stop trying to be someone else, you begin to hear the quiet, powerful truth of who you've always been.